guys, and it is I who exists, and it has been a while. I could go into a long explanation, but ultimately it just came down to didn't really feel like recording, and well, other people kind of just did it better than me. And I just thought, well, let's let other people crack on, see where things ended up. But well, a lot of things have changed obviously since my last video, and most notably, I have entered a tournament, a casual kind of community-run tournament, similar to the Steam Showdowns of yesteryear, which I was, of course, a winner of. Thank you very much. And then, yeah, so this, as a part of the tournament, I registered an Is It Drake deck. If you've been playing Standard, you know this deck. Fairly straightforward. It revolves around the card Arc-like Phoenix, and you will see it in work in this video. And yeah, so I'm not entirely sure of the tournament of the structure, you know what I mean, structure of the tournament. But I do know it's some Swiss rounds, and my first round opponent was a gentleman by the name of PsyRex, I think, and he was playing a kind of a Demiri control kind of discardy deck built around disinformation campaign, a lot of surveil, all that kind of good stuff. And it's always a tough matchup, especially because you wouldn't think though, because they've got discard and you've got Arc-like Phoenix. But well, let's just say, you know, I mean, if they just shred your hand, you can't actually get your phoenixes out your graveyard, and things tend to get a bit rough. But I didn't think the matchup was unwinnable, but at the same time, I wasn't like going in with 100% confidence. So I will start the tape as I badly. I'd never actually used the direct challenge thing before, so you can see me kind of struggle my way here. And there's a couple funny moments, especially when it comes to sideboard, and I didn't really think ahead. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to upload at least the tournament matches. I'm not entirely sure about anything else. I'm not kind of did post commentary because it was the middle of the night, so I didn't really want to wake everyone up by doing commentary at the time. So this is obviously post commentary if you haven't figured that out already. But I eventually figured it out. My opponent was very patient. He's a very nice guy, PsyRex. We talked afterwards, and yeah, he was very funny. We talked about our sideboarding and decisions we made. Anyway, we finally get our hands after a bit of lag. he was on the play. Generally for this tournament, what happens is you meant to reset if you want to be on the play, but obviously with this being the first game, didn't really matter. I was on the draw. Obviously I prefer to be on the play, but you know, you lose the coin flip sometimes. What can I say? This hand is not like insanely powerful, but it kind of got the job done. You know, it got shot course, and I am a sucker for drawing cards and then discarding them immediately. So I thought I'd see where it goes. Dive Down's obviously very good versus. He has a lot of targeted removals. He has 4 Vascal attempts, and he had a couple, you know, just other targeted removal. But so the Dive Down obviously was pretty good here. One thing I will say is that, well, it's kind of. Like I said, I had a really tough choice deciding what to discard here. I had so many lands and not really a good way to flip the Phoenix immediately. He doesn't run many creatures, so Lava Cause not going to have a target for a while anyway. So I reluctantly discard land and decide I'm going to go down the hardcast Phoenix route. Just because it can come back from the graveyard doesn't mean it has to. It is still a 4-mana 3/2 haste, which is acceptable. So my opponent plays his Search for his counter. Seems to be stuck on black mana, judging by the double blue into Field of Ruin, but he manages to find the Water Grave, and in comes the Disinformation campaign. Again, I think I decided to just chuck a land here. No, I got rid of Shock. Can't remember, but yeah. Like I said, I mean, I thought the chances of me bringing back a Phoenix weren't worth just discarding it, so I decided to hardcast it here. Because he essentially, I thought he was low on black mana. I thought I would be able to get away with this Phoenix dodging a Vraska's Contempt, so I didn't wait a turn for the dive down. He only runs 4 counters, but they are Sinister Sabotage, so I decided to, while he was tapped out, to get the Phoenix down. This turn, unfortunately, does hit the second black, so I decided I'm going to have to keep dive down up. I attack. He actually takes the damage, I think. And then I just pass it back to him, because you can see I'm kind of flooding out badly here. Didn't regret discarding them lands. And then he hits me with a cast down, and this was a tough decision for me. Do I blow the dive down here because it's a Phoenix, you know, it can come straight back, Do I need to blow my dive down? Ultimately I decide it's worth it, I've got no threats going on. And I get punished for it because he has the sinister sabotage. Any second now, you'll see. Yeah, and that of course returns his disinformation campaign. You can't really play a long game versus disinformation campaign, you kind of have to get ahead on board so they can't afford to tap out for it. Or in some circumstances just empty your hand, so it is only a draw one. But yeah, looking at his hand, it's not a particularly good situation for me, especially when he plays the Blood Operative. Getting rid of my Phoenix, I was so upset at this point. I was already thinking about how I was going to sideboard. I didn't think I could really win it. Charter Course was a good draw, but I decided, you know what? I need to get lucky here. Decide to Charter Course. Hit the Discovery, of course going to get rid of a land. So ideally I needed to hit a Phoenix and then I could Lava Coil to bring it back. And I get lucky. In fact, they were the two best cards in my deck there. The Crackling Day and Bidding the Phoenix. Get to exile his Blood Operative and then hit him for the Phoenix. He's down to 9. And well, you know, things suddenly went from looking hopeless to looking hopeful, assuming I can dodge the Vraska's Contempts. And this was kind of the pivotal turn of the first match. I needed him to do something that agreed with me, and well, let's just say as soon as you see what he plays, I couldn't snap off my spell fast enough. He tapped up for his Doom Operative, and then at this point I'm thinking, okay, this game's in the bag. Have exactly 7 mana, exactly copy this, steal his Doom Operative off him. I couldn't have done anything else there. And now suddenly my opponent is in a world of hurt. He has to kill his own he's forced to kill his own Doom Operative just to survive the turn. And he kind of desperately surveils here, I think. I think he knew the writing was on the wall. He needed to find some Vraska Contempts. And then I get, of course, to smack him for 3. He's down to 4 versus 2 pretty scary threats. I have a pretty stacked hand. That disinformation campaign is not what he needs right now. Like I said, he taps out for that, he's dead, even though... So I kind of dodged. The first one hurt, but the second one was alright for me. And then he taps out for a Vraska Contempt. I go for his Surveil. Decide to keep the Charter Course. Maybe I should have just kept Surveil in a bunch there just to try and hit another Phoenix. But ultimately I didn't think it mattered. I have so much advantage at the minute here. I decided to try and hit the second Phoenix for lethal. So this is why I'm doing this all pre-combat. Bin the 2 lands, hit the Lava Card, not really going to help here. Again, I just decided to Charter Course instead of tapping off the Drake because chances of me hitting the land are pretty good, and hit the land. Didn't hit the Phoenix unfortunately, but when I play the Crackling Drake, there it is. So that was unfortunate, but like I said, my opponent's in the world of hurt. They've got 2 lethal threats to deal with now. And we have the Phoenix in hand, so... Well, this game went from looking pretty hopeless to pretty hopeful in one turn, which is the power of the Phoenix and kind of the disadvantage of discard decks, where if your opponent top decks well, discard looks pretty stupid, and I was very lucky this game. Now this is the funny moment in mind. I kind of forgot that wasn't the best of 3 mode, so I assumed we'd go at the sideboarding screen. Realised my mistake, and then you get to see me panic around trying to figure out how to sideboard here. But you get a little cheeky look at my list if you haven't seen it before. I go to see if I can kind of drag the cards from my sideboard into my main deck, but it wasn't really working. So I actually ended up cutting the video here. Decided to ended up making a copy of the deck and just doing it manually. But my opponent was very patient, and he needed to be because it took me a while here. I didn't think ahead, but as for sideboarding, I actually kind of did an interesting tactic here, which was something I was pretty proud of. I actually boarded out my Phoenix. All 4 Phoenix went out the deck. I think I took a couple shocks out as well, and I decided to go full control. So I brought in the Nev Mizzet, I brought in a couple Ral PsyRex, and I even brought in Murmuring Mystics, because my theory here was my opponent's not going to bring in Sweepers, because Sweepers are useless versus pretty much everything apart from Goblin and Electromancer. And he's going to be so worried about the Phoenix, he's going to bring in all his graveyard hate, all his creatures steal, all that stuff. So I thought, you know what, let's just turn into a control deck. So like I said, bring in the Planeswalkers, bring in Nev Mizzet. And you might be wondering why I kept in Electromancer over the Phoenixes, because they're kind of redundant if you're taking out the Phoenix. Well, you can see it in my hand, it's actually for the Charter Course, because like I said, my opponent's going to be taking out all of his Moment of Cravings, he's going to be taking out all his that kind of stuff, because you know, it's useless versus the Phoenix and the Drakes and stuff, so I decided the Electromancer is going to survive, and then, even though if I'm not doing the Phoenix plan, Charter Course is now a 2-mana draw 2, which is pretty powerful. So I couldn't really complain here, but like I said. But versus the discard deck, they do tend to shred your hand. You'll see this very strong in game 2 here. Decide to just tap out for the Electromancer here, I think. Draw the Niv Midget, which I was really happy about because it dodged the discard spell there. So I was like, okay, this is my game plan, get down Niv Midget and just win the game. Unfortunately, my opponent had the second one. I was really sad here. Because I really thought I'd got lucky and dodged the discard spell for game 2 here. But all is not lost. Like I said, you'll get to see the little chart course thing here. It does have a second mode. So 2-mana draw 2. I mean 1-mana draw 2, my bad. But you can see it again, I'm flooding pretty bad again. I wasn't feeling particularly confident. This op needed to go big for me. And I needed to kind of dodge like stuff like hostage taker would have been really bad here. My opponent did have a sideboard himself. He brought in kind of the hostage taker and some of the better removal. Decide to kind of, like I said, I went full control here, so I don't have to worry about keeping spells for Phoenix. So I'm just kind of digging my way to a good draw. Discovery was a good draw because it lets me sculpt my hand. Looking for stuff like Crackling Drake and decide both of them bin in it. Radical Idea gets value from the hand. Do hit the Crackling Drake. Unfortunately can't cast it this turn. Like I said though, my opponent does have only one counter spell in Sinister Sabotage, but he does have all 4 copies, so I wouldn't have probably played the Drake that turn anyway. Don't want to give them stuff to do with their mana. And there is the search for that counter. This game is kind of looking better than the things were in game 1, but I do need to find some way to close out the game. My opponent kind of shredded it all. And he does tap out here. He did kind of miss his land drops, which sucked. Something to note. So again, this Electromancer has now hit my opponent for 6, keep that in mind. And I do get to tap out for the Drake. So, you know, things are looking better here. And there, of course, is Murmuring Mystic, which was kind of the secret sideboard tech. Like I said, all his removal was going to be targeted, so I was hoping to go wide with a bunch of flying bird tokens to just kind of win the game, overwhelm my opponent. He then cast down the I didn't expect the Phoenix to survive. I thought if the Phoenix survived, my opponent was really in trouble. But like I said, this Electromancer now is hit for 8 damage. Get a bit weird lagging game here. I was a bit worried, but yeah. So this is why I chose Electromancer over Phoenix. Electromancer has already hit for 8 and drawn me 2 cards. And there's the Mystic, and we have 2 blue mana up for this Radical Idea. So we're already going to be able to make at least 2 birds, even if my opponent does have the removal spell for it. So at this point I was feeling pretty confident. The Entrancing Melody is there, so even his Doom Whisperers aren't too terrifying. So yeah, at this point I was feeling pretty confident. Worst case scenario has the removal spell, and even then I'm still pretty far ahead. So yeah, I was pretty happy here. And then when he plays the Eldest Reborn, I knew I was pretty favoured, because that was a very desperation one. And sure enough, I get to make the 2 birds, just sacrifice one of the birds. Kind of a 5-mana sacrifice spell. Eldest Reborn would have been amazing if I hadn't kept the Murmuring Mystics in. If I hadn't brought the Murmuring Mystics in, I mean, but because I did, it looks pretty bad there. So I was very happy with how I chose the sideboard here. I'm not entirely sure it was optimal, but hey, you know, you do what you do, you know. And like I said, at this point I decided to just try and see if I was drawn to anything interesting there. Decided not to. And then just in case he kept the sweepers in, just in case he thought ahead and brought the sweepers in, I decided not to do everything on my main phase and just kind of wait till turn 2 here. But as you can see, I've got a very wide board. Electromancer has now hit for, I think, 10? I lost track. It hits for a lot of damage. This Electromancer was definitely MVP game 2. Eldest Reborn discarding a land, didn't need it anywhere. So yeah, my opponent needed a pretty special turn here, and they well, let's see what they do, shall we? I won't spoil it. And then Sarasco Contempt. They did finally draw the answer, but it was just a turn too late. The Phoenix had the Murmuring Mystic had already done its damage. I'd already drawn a bunch of cards, and then yeah, drawing a Ral when they're tapped out like that, I just thought, okay, this game. my opponent would need a spectacular comeback. But I did kind of make a misplay. Something I did. I'm not sure if I could have played around it, but well, let's just say Elders Reborn says both graveyards. So maybe I should have, because like I said, my opponent did need something special to come back from the situation. But well, there's a Niv Mizzet in my graveyard, and if they had a bunch of like instants and sorceries and stuff, things could have got rough. They really could have, because my opponent would have been able to ping all my birds down and then survive the Electromancer, and then suddenly I need an answer. So I didn't really think far ahead here. I would have been really in trouble. I'm not sure if I could have played around it, but something to keep in mind. You see my opponent playing the get the Niv Mizzet back off the Elders Reborn, and this was the moment of truth. Would they have the flurry of instants and sorceries to kill me? And let's find out. I won't spoil it. No, they do not. They tap out for a Doom Whisper, and yeah, they're dead on board now. I have the dive down anyway to protect against one removal spell. So, well, that was the game. A pretty close games, both games. Both of them could have went very rough. If you looked at my hands at certain points in both games, you would have thought I was definitely not favoured, but the deck was kind to me and I ended up winning, and that was, well, that was it. I won both games there, and 2-0, so I'm now 1-0 in the tournament, and I will now see you all for round 2. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.